and every study will have different challenges. In the one that we are just launching now, which is on one of our most common antihistamines used for allergy, we don't have that many challenges when we're collecting the breast milk samples, because we see that women are so eager to volunteer and to donate their breast milk to research. And it really just points to the fact that it's such a huge information gap about the safety of medications and the transfer of medications into breast milk that actually we finding volunteers and women who are willing to give us their breast milk is actually quite feasible. However, of course, for studies where we are recruiting women who are using rarer drugs and at the same time breastfeeding, those are more challenging, and it's more challenging to recruit patients into those kind of studies. And of course, therefore, we need to work together at a European level. Otherwise, we will not have sufficient amount of breast milk samples to conduct a scientifically solid study. Well, of course, there's always ethical challenges that we need to be aware of. Every woman who donates breast milk, she signs an informed consent form. So we really explain to her in a very thorough way what we're asking of her, and so she can make the decision whether she wants to participate or not. Because we do ask them to provide several milk samples, and this, of course, it does take time and willingness. Now, what we really need to do is to ensure that the studies are ethical, is we need to adapt them to not to disturb the breastfeeding of the child. So the child will always come first, always get the breast milk first. We do not intervene on the woman's medication. It's not an intervention per se, but we observe and measure the concentration of the drug in the breast milk. So we really are very, very conscious about the ethical issues and are in close dialogue with our ethics committee and receive all the approvals that are necessary before these studies are launched. And maybe I could just add, because we have also a special informed consent where we ask the women if they're willing to let us store their breast milk samples also for future research in Uppsala at the human breast milk collection. And that also, of course, requires a thorough informed consent from her.
I think developing written standard operating procedures, which can be applied to all sites in different countries, is manageable. The more tricky part can be, as in our study, where everything is done remotely, so we're relying 100% on the woman's adherence to study procedures. So in this case, I think it's really very important to ensure that the studies are being carried out in a similar manner, that we develop very clear instructions to the participants, and that we are also having constant follow-up and can assess them when they encounter any difficulties, because this can help to have a higher compliance to study procedures when things are done remotely, in comparison to, for example, when you're doing things at clinical sites and you're having more control of the study procedures like sampling and storage. So there are different logistical aspects that have to be considered when shipping the biological samples. The first important factor is definitely to have a very good understanding of the regulatory requirements, because, for example, in this study, as the milk samples are being shipped anonymized, so in this case, we did not need to have an approval from Norwegian regulatory authorities. In other situations, an approval must be obtained prior to the shipment. Another important factor is the stability of the drugs in different temperatures, because this is also something that is going to be very important when you're deciding on the shipment method. And this study and the clinical lactation studies we're conducting in Norway, stability testing of the drugs were done prior to the shipment by the Uppsala Biobank. And we know that the drug is stable in different temperatures and at room temperature as well. So in this case, we've just used the standard shipment method. But in other cases where you're going to have the milk samples frozen throughout the shipment, or you're going to have like temperature controlled shipment, the process might be much more complex, especially if you're having a requirement to use dry ice, for example, which requires a lot of paperwork. So this is also something to think about when choosing the shipment method. Another aspect is the container that you're actually using for the collection of milk samples, because it's also well known that some of the drugs can absorb to plastic containers, and this was also tested by the Uppsala Biobank prior to the shipment, and we know that the milk bags you're using do not absorb, because this is also an important factor that can affect the reliability of the study results. So we've implemented an online recruitment strategy. The study is being advertised for in different platforms and channels, including websites to patient organizations and Instagram pages. I can really say that the recruitment has gone beyond expectations. A lot of women were interested in this study, and I was really inspired by the many positive feedback we got in the beginning of the recruitment. Many women found this study very important and wanted to contribute and help in the research we're conducting, which is very positive. As mentioned earlier, all of the study procedures are done remotely by the woman herself, and that's why maybe this has helped in reaching out to as many potential participants as possible, because we're recruiting all over Norway, and we got several participants from remote areas in Norway, like northern Norway. So this has also played an important role in reaching out to as many potential participants as possible. I think it all depends on the recruitment and how it goes. For the time being, the recruitment is really going very well, and if you have non-compliance, if you have low non-compliance to study procedures and dropouts, so in this case, I think we can expect the results to be the first results to be, or the recruitment end at least, at the beginning of the first quarter next year.
I think it's contributing in an extremely important and valuable way for all of Europe, because it makes no sense to build up a system like this in every country. We all need to work together, and we're building on already existing infrastructure and expertise. So for us, it is extremely valuable to develop this system in close collaboration with BBMRI-ERIC.